Hey guys, if you're learning automation or breaking into tech, join our free Skool community, Your Tech Step. I drop extra content, tools, and support that you won't get on YouTube. It's free for now while we grow, so hop in while you can. The link's in the description. All right. So today we're tackling one of the most underrated topics in test automation. How do you decide whether to use ID, name, or another attribute like data-test ID? So how do you decide to use, like, here's an example. So here's the ID, you have the name, and then you have the data-test ID. So in Selenium WebDriver, the most performant and direct methods are by ID, by name, and by class name. So here, let's go to the page here. You guys can see this. Okay, so this page is a little bit more complicated than what we've had, but so first you want to go by ID. If the ID is unique, ID is the fastest element selector that will be found. The next one you want to go with, if the ID is, let's say it's auto-generated, it's got some weird text. What I mean by weird text is that it's got some numbers appended at the end, or it changes every time you reload the page. The next one you want to go and look for is the name attribute. So ID, name, and by class name. These map directly to native DOM attributes, and they are usually faster and more reliable. So when to use ID? If an element has a static unique ID, use it. If there's no ID, but the name is unique, like in our example, the name of this input field is unique. In fact, this is perfect. All lowercase, no spacing, no special characters, no appended numbers at the end. This is my first choice. Now, this likely is not going to change, but I would pick name over this ID only because this has a 1 at the end. I've seen cases where it looks simple, but they've been auto-generated and it changes. So like in the test example, we actually used the name. So let's go back to our variable page. Now, we could use data-test ID. That's actually ideal in modern web apps, especially in React or Angular, because devs will add test-specific attributes just for automation. And so we could use that with this by CSS selector. This keeps the selector decoupled from styling and layout. But we do want to avoid class names because a lot of times class names are shared. So most elements, you want to find an element that has a unique identifier, not an element that shares a class name with many elements, because then an element will receive the click that you weren't intending to click. So now, if you don't have any stable selectors, so if, let's say, there's not a stable ID, name isn't present or not stable, same thing in class name is not unique, then what we could do is we could use an XPath. So we could then construct an XPath. Now, these can get really complicated. You can target many of the attribute values. So you could say button, it contains a specific class, it has text that equals, the title is equal to something, or the data-test.id dash data-test ID is equal to username. Only look for ones that have an input field. There's really a lot you can do with XPaths. In fact, XPaths, I prefer them over the CSS selectors because they can traverse the DOM in multiple directions, while the CSS selector can only look at the children. So so the hierarchy is this. First, you want to look for an ID. If you can't find one, look for a name. And if there was a unique class name, then you could do that. But a lot of times class names are shared. So I would stay away from class names. CSS selector will work. You can use data-test ID. But if there's a cleaner name, then you would want a cleaner attribute, then you would want to use that. And so that's how I decide. And we have to know the tool's native capabilities. You always have to understand the DOM structure of whatever page you're working on, and always aim for clean and stable selectors. So, guys, I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, drop them below. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one.